So I'll start with the intro. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's session on connected two-wheelers. This session is brought to you by the team at Two-Wheeler, Three-Wheeler and EV Forum, or as we are more popularly known, TWF. And we have partnered with Tata Communications for this session. My name is Rohit Devan, and I'm the Portfolio Director for TWF and a series of automotive events. Also, we do CVF, PVF. While most of you are already aware, for some of the new attendees who are joining us, just to give you a quick introduction, TWF is India's premium C-level two-wheeler, three-wheeler, and EV event. And before we start today's session, I'm delighted to share that the upcoming seventh edition of the event is going to be held in March 2026 in Delhi, bringing over 100 speakers and about 500 delegates to this event, which will include professionals from vehicle manufacturers, suppliers, government bodies, and some innovative startups. And in the upcoming edition, we will also be bringing back our TWF Awards, honoring innovation and excellence across the industry. Next, moving on to the agenda for today's session, I will be kicking off the proceedings with a short welcome note. As part of the introduction, I will be introducing the speaker and moderator for today's session as well. Our moderator, Nishant, will then give a quick overview of the session and will initiate the panel discussion. We will also devote a minute or two to run few polls to obtain your feedback during the session. At the end, we will end with a few audience questions. Your active participation is essential to make this session a success. Right now, we have everyone in listen-only mode, but here is how you can interact with us. You can ask us questions. At the bottom of your screen, you will see a Q&A box. You can put in your questions in this Q&A box. We will take those questions in the Q&A segment at the end. You can also choose to upvote these questions. This will help us in addressing the most burning topics. We also invite you to share your insights in the poll question that will be flashing across your screen at regular intervals. And do note that we are recording this session, so you will also receive a recording of this session on the completion of the session. Apart from that, I request you to share your insights in the feedback form that will open up as soon as you exit the session. If there's something else, please feel free to reach out to us. So before we begin today's session, I wanted to take the opportunity to thank our partner Tata Communications for supporting this session. Tata Communications is a global digital ecosystem enabler powering the digital transformation of enterprises worldwide, including 300 of the Fortune 500. They help businesses unlock borderless growth, enhance customer experiences, drive innovation, and improve efficiency. They carry 30% of the world's internet routes, connect to 80% of the global cloud providers, and reach 4 out of 5 mobile subscribers, all supported by the world's largest wholly owned subsea fiber backbone and a tier 1 IP network in 190 plus countries. With over 25 years of driving India's digital revolution, Tata Communications is committed to delivering secure, connected digital experiences for enterprises across the globe. So now, moving on to the panel discussion, I would like to briefly introduce our expert speaker group. I'll start off with the first speaker, Mr. Manjunath Atre, who heads engineering vertical at Yulu. He brings over 3 decades of experience, global experience in technology leadership. And at Yulu, he's focusing on building a world-class engineering team, delivering customer-centric solutions, and driving innovation. Our next speaker is Saroj Panda, Head of Solutions Engineering Mobility at Tata Communications, a seasoned leader in telecom and mobility solutions. Saroj has extensive experience across network planning, IoT, 5G, edge data centers, and vehicle connectivity. At Tata Communications, he plays a pivotal role in architecting and scaling connected mobility tools and services that are transforming two-wheeler and EV ecosystems. With his blend of technical depth and strategic vision, Saroj is driving innovations that make mobility smarter, more efficient, and future-ready. Our third speaker for the session is Mr. Pankaj Sharma, who's a well-known two-wheeler industry expert who brings over 25 years of leadership experience across Kinetic Green, Ola Electric, Royal Enfield, Volkswagen, Maruti Suzuki, and Tata Motors. Pankaj is a strong advocate of electric mobility for a sustainable future and focuses on customer-centric solutions, operational efficiency, and innovative models such as D2C. He is also passionate about rethinking and simplifying mobility and continues to shape the industry's transformation towards a cleaner, more sustainable world. Next, we have Mr. Rahul Yadav, SVP Technology at Zypp Electric, who has over 15 years of experience, including leadership roles at Airtel. In just 2 years at Zypp, he has progressed from VP of Tech to CISO and now leads a 70-member team driving technology and data science. Under his leadership, Zypp has built solutions like IoT and fleet management, rider apps, in-house ERP, and smart reporting systems, enhancing efficiency, customer experience, and sustainability while empowering Zypp's delivery pilots. Next, we have Mr. Vivek Enu, an automotive and innovation enthusiast, currently leading the connected vehicles vertical at Hero MotoCorp. With a strong focus on business enhancement and asset safety, he plays a pivotal role in advancing technology for fleet management and asset protection with Fredo Bike Rentals, a business vertical of Hero MotoCorp. With expertise spanning electronics, vehicle to software integrations, connected vehicles, and both ICE and EV platforms, Vivek has been instrumental in driving operational improvements and technology development. In terms of his education, he holds a postgraduate degree in advanced electrical and electronics from the University of Leicester, UK, and a bachelor's degree in electrical and electronics from PESIT, Bangalore. Our sixth speaker for the session, our final speaker for the session, is Mr. Akshat Kumar. He has over 6 years of experience in the tech and mobility space and is skilled in stakeholder management, project planning, and data-driven decision making. He has previously contributed to organizations like Google, DPanda, and Amity Software, driving innovation across product management, analytics, and software development. Our moderator for the session is Mr. Nishant Shekhar. He specializes in the automotive and energy sectors across India and emerging markets, with expertise in sustainable mobility, connected vehicles, renewable energy, battery storage, green hydrogen, and power transmission and distribution. Nishant has led large-scale strategy and operations projects across India, Africa, and Southeast Asia. And in terms of his education, he's a bachelor's in electrical engineering from Delhi College of Engineering and an MBA from Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, Delhi. And before I hand this over to Nishant, I just wanted to start with a poll. So just give me a second. I'll just launch this poll for everybody. So this poll talks about what all do you think will most accelerate the adoption of connected two-wheelers in India. So this poll is open to all the attendees and the panelists as well. So I would request you to very quickly just share your answer to this poll, and I will give you the next 30 seconds to just answer your queries, and I will share the final poll results, and then I'll pass on to Nishant to take this forward. So which factor do you think will most accelerate adoption of connected two-wheelers in India? Will it be affordable connectivity and devices? Will it be stronger regulatory support? Will it be consumer demand for safety and convenience? Or will it be the growth of electric two-wheelers? This is a multiple choice question, so you can even choose more than one question if you feel one answer if you feel like. So last 10 seconds. So thank you everyone for you're answering the poll. I'm sharing the results. So if you look at it, it's a tie at the top from between affordable connectivity and devices and consumer demand for safety and convenience, followed by stronger regulatory support, and last but not the least, the growth of electric two-wheelers. So thank you so much, the audience, and I pass it over to Nishant to take the discussion forward.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rohit, and good afternoon, everyone. Now, if we look at the two-wheeler ecosystem in India as well as globally, it's undergoing multiple transformation. So at one side, we have the transformation or the transition towards sustainable mobility. And over the past few years in our own country, we have seen how the penetration of electric two-wheelers has been growing. At the same point of time, with improving connectivity, we also see that the consumer demand is also changing. And that has led to a scenario where the standard odometer has been replaced by instrument clusters with intelligent connected interfaces that enhance rider engagement, convenience, and safety. Now, The focus of our discussion today will be on the connected two-wheeler ecosystem in India. We'll start with understanding what state of development we are in, and given our market dynamics and unique operating environment, what are the challenges that we are facing and how we are trying to solve them. We'll also look at finally that what will be the way forward, what are the key enablers that we have to focus on to take this ahead. Now we have a very well diversified panel with us with solutions provider, OEMs, everyone there. With that said, I'll start now with the questions. So, Saroj, starting with you. Now, because you have a global perspective, so if I was to ask you that, how is India positioned in the global connected mobility ecosystem? And again, along with this, what makes India a unique testbed for connected two-wheeler solutions compared to your experience in the developed markets?
Thank you, Nishant. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. That's an excellent question, Nishant. So India today holds a uniquely influential position in the global connectivity mobility ecosystem, particularly in the two-wheeler segment. It is not only the largest two-wheeler market globally, but also one of the most diverse and demanding market as well. Our market creates a massive data-rich, real-time environment for testing connected solution at a very, very large scale. Now, what makes India relevant is this: the same technology that succeeds here, whether it is a dynamic multi-network orchestration or network switching, are exactly what the OEMs across, including the fleet operators, city authorities in regions like Latin America, Southeast Asia as well, where micro mobility is exploding, similar sort of requirement. So in many ways, India is shaping the blueprint for a global connected mobility, not by chasing the premium innovation, but by proving what it takes to make connected mobility affordable, sustainable, and scalable. At Tata Communication, we view India is not just as a high volume customer market, but as a strategic innovation lab. It is where we test how connectivity platforms perform under scale, under cost pressure, under infrastructure variability. And that gives us a very good foundation to take it outside and launch in the outside global market. And that's how our customer base, our enterprise customers are able to get our help as well. So in summary, as the industry evolves, the whole, not just the four-wheeler, but the two-wheeler market, the mobility market, from a hardware-led to software-defined sort of vehicles, in from being a lab to being the launch pad across the globe. That to me is the fundamental advantage India as a market has. Thank you.
Sure, sure. I think great perspective, Saroj. So essentially, what we are talking about is that what we do in India will create a roadmap for other developing economies, other high two-wheeler intensity economies. So on similar lines, I think, Mr. Atre, my next question will be to you. Again, because we started with talking about the unique set of challenges and the unique operating environment in India. From an engineering perspective, what are the biggest challenges in scaling connected two-wheeler fleets in our dense urban environments?
So can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
All right. So when you talk about, challenges faced, especially here in India in terms of connectivity, the biggest challenge is to ensure that the information flow comes in from the bikes onto the central place where we collect all this information and make business decisions, right? So, sorry.
No problem, Manjunath. Yeah, it's a little connection problem.
Yes.
Uh,
So I think
Like,
while Mr. Atre joins back, we can move on to Mr. Sharma. And again, sir, I think the question will be slightly different from your perspective. So, from your experience at Kinetic Green, how are players or EV players integrating connected solutions to improve fleet management, energy efficiency, and customer trust? Because again, like we saw in the poll as well, one of the key pillars of taking this ecosystem forward would be consumer adoption and consumer trust in these solutions. So we just wanted to understand your perspective on that.
Hi, Nishant, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with all the panelists, and thank you to all the people who have already joined in. I think let me just give you a segment perspective or two-wheeler perspective. That there are four segments in two-wheeler, right? One is, of course, light mobility, or where we call fleet. Then there are mopeds, which are personal use. Then there is a family scooter, and then there is a premium scooter, and right. When we say connected vehicle, which means there are three stakeholders who wants to get the data out of these connected vehicle. One, of course, the OEM, because they want to know and they want to do deepen their studies about the vehicle. Second, of course, the end consumer, if they want to know their travel, how the vehicle is behaving. And third, I think the most important in the fleet operator thing, where they can actually evaluate the efficiency of the vehicle, because for them is most important is what percentage of the total time the vehicle was on the road or off the road, right? And plus other the rider behavior and all. And I'm happy to share that in last 3-4 years, I think on the lower end, which is the fleet side, and the upper higher end, adoption has happened in terms of connected vehicle, because people are seeing the value in it, the benefit in it, and they are willing to pay that differential price. While at the same time, I think I must thank the technology partners also, who are providing these so-called what do you say, support system to the OEMs. The rates have, or the costs have really gone down, which has increased the adoption of these connected vehicles, because most of the OEMs, if you see, they launch a vehicle and then they give it as an option to the retail customer, right? And if it is not affordable, let's say around 3 to 5% of the retail price, or 5 to 7%, people sometimes don't adopt it, right? But for fleet customer, it is kind of a mandatory. I'm happy that in last 3 years, along with the um, adoption of electric vehicle, even the connected vehicle penetration is increasing within the electric vehicles, right? And I foresee in next 3 to 5 years also this trend is going up, because even consumers want it to be digitally enabled, right? They want to start the vehicle with mobile. They want to control the route map. They want to do the geofencing. Even financer wants it to be getting this information so that they can track the vehicle, right? In those 1-2% cases where they need to possess the vehicle. So I think there is a very positive trend, and I'm sure it is further going to go up. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sharma. I think a great perspective, and especially in terms of who all do the data insights go to. So the OEMs, the customers, as well as the fleet operators. Just checking with Mr. Atre if he's connected again. Otherwise, I'll move ahead with the next question.
Nishant, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Atre, I can.
Okay, I've switched off the video, just ensuring that
Sure, that
everybody is
works.
there. All right, go ahead, please, with your question.
Yes, so again, coming back to the question, the idea was to understand from an engineering perspective, given our unique operating environment, given the dense urban environments that these two-wheelers operate in, what are the biggest challenges that you see in scaling connected two-wheeler fleets?
See, some of the challenges that we see because of the dense structure of our cities, when you talk about operating a fleet out there in the city, you need to ensure that your customers get access to both the vehicle as well as the battery, right? And batteries are very, very important to be located at the right places. So when you marry that with the density of our cities, finding the right location is a huge challenge, right? And it's not just one location. Again, given the population that we serve, there have to be multiple such locations across the city, right? So one of the first challenges that we face is what is the right spot, and from there you also need to take into consideration power availability. You need to take into consideration space availability, because oftentimes what happens is you may get a space, but then it's too crunched, right, to give the satisfactory customer experience. So to find the right space to ensure that your customer walks away completely happy with that experience, to have the right power out there, is a challenge. That's one of the first challenges that anybody who wants to scale faces. The second challenge that we faced out there in different cities of India is in terms of the road infrastructure. So when you have a fleet out there on the road, you need to ensure that you're connected, right? Data is flowing in properly, and you have the right information in terms of where the vehicles are and so on and so forth. So the satellite coverage, again, because of the density of the buildings that we have, the structures that we have, sometimes becomes patchy, right? So you need to ensure that you have the right technology to handle such cases where information is not coming in for a period of time. For 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you have lost sight of the vehicle as to where exactly it is. So all of that forms again a challenge which we see in urban India quite often coming in. So space, power, the infrastructure are three major challenges that I see as we talk about scaling in a dense environment like India's.
Sure, sure. I think a very good perspective to have. And that does raise questions for solutions provider, but I'll come to Saroj in a while. So Rahul, again, like Mr. Sharma mentioned that, the data that's being generated, fleet operators have a different perspective on it. The customer might have a different perspective on it. And similarly, the OEM might have a different view in terms of what are the data points that they are looking at. Now, from a fleet operator perspective, of course, you would be tracking rider behavior, fleet uptimes, but essentially, what other actionable insights are, fleet operators deriving from the data that's being generated?
So Nishant, are you asking me, Rahul?
Yes, Rahul.
Okay. So the thing is, right now we are operating a fleet of like 20,000 strong fleet in two wheelers and around 1,500 in three wheelers. So this data, obviously, this comes for all the fleets. We have enabled it via the IoT, and the frequency of data is like for 2 seconds we receive this data for each and every vehicle to our server, and then maintaining these huge amount of data and making a logic out of it, doing geofencing, uh, and also we have hubs across India. They also has to be geofenced, and then basically we have to map a rider to a fleet, and this fleet management also has to be done there. There will be lots of spare part that are to be managed. So everything, whatever we have done, what we have done is we have done these things. Everything is goes into digitally. Like our job card are created digitally. The under maintenance, uh, then pre RFD, RFD stage, everything gets checked using parts of AI. There are some manual processes as well. So what we have done this all the fleet management, whoever mechanic, hub managers, inventory manager, all are working on their separate apps and dashboards, so that the status of a fleet uh, goes well into the system, and system knows like what is there in the what is happening to that fleet. And as per the data that is coming via the IoT, so that also gives us very significant information about the where is our fleet. That also we need to share with our some of our financiers uh, that are actually requiring that kind of data. Then also it also gives us the insights whether our fleets are right now active or not. It also enable us with the feature for the ground team, like if required, there is a theft anti-theft mechanism. A rider can basically do a motor lock using this IoT. The start and stop obviously works via the IoT from the phone itself. So the thing is, in fleet management, there are multiple things that are basically handled directly by the tech, and then comes to our allotment part, which is basically rider onboarding, the KYCs, the selfie matching of a rider. If he was working with us earlier, or if he is a blacklisted rider, uh, then there is a significant action that we can take. Then basically we need to map this rider to a fleet of his choice. So that is also done via a dedicated app to the riders. And then there is a huge problem which comes that we have multiple clients, like Zepto is our client, Swiggy is our client, everyone who is doing this 10 minutes deliveries, or as well as e-commerce partners, they are actually our B2B partners. So we have to integrate everything with them. Like they all have their different processes, different things, but whatever is required to adapt to integrate with them, we are doing that. Then comes the charging partner. We in Zypp Electric, we don't have our own charging stations, but we have our partners, so we integrate with them as well, so to provide a very good and happy experience to our users and riders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rahul. Your perspective on how this data can be utilized. Fleet management is a basic part of it, of course, spares management, KYC, blacklisting drivers. So that just shows the kind of impact this type of connected vehicles can have, especially in a market like ours, where, of course, there are a lot of safety concerns as well. So this then comes out as one of the key benefits of having these connected vehicles, of course, beyond the customer experience as well. So thank you so much, Rahul. So I'll now move on to Vivek. Again, Vivek, from a OEM perspective, I think the key question that comes here is that, of course, we'd want to give as many features as possible to the customers. But all of it comes at a cost. And especially when we are talking about the two-wheeler market, that's a price-sensitive market. So as it is, while the EV and the ICE price is reaching some sort of parity, but of course, when we talk about the two-wheeler segment, price does remain a concern. So how are OEMs like yours ensuring that you do provide connectivity solutions, but at the same point of time, it doesn't exceed the budget of the end consumer?
Okay, fantastic. It was a great question, to be honest, with the OEM perspective. See, everything's come for a cost, right? Anything that get embedded to the vehicle or associated to a vehicle from a OEM has a cost associated to it. There will be a very niche point to have a feature without charging a customer, right? So OEM to have anything that has been embedded, we have to it is a dual thought process. One is to have the feature and provide it to the customer and say the customer that if he is interested, he can avail the feature. Or the second opportunity is for us to educate the customer what will be the long-term benefit of the feature in this vehicle. Suppose, say, for example, a vehicle has a tracking system or a anti-theft system. So we have to educate the customers. So OEM always thinks that we have to give a feature which has an understanding from the customer. It cannot be a open end or a single loop system or a one-way system. It has to be a closed loop system wherein customer has to understand and strategize is the maintenance of the vehicle or a life cycle of the vehicle. Supposedly, we give a feature to track his history of the total vehicle travel or number of services being done, and is it being done in the dedicated time slots, or are we giving him a precautionary measures what his vehicle might need to lead to after 2 years, such that the customer would have a better knowledge on when he has to get the vehicle repaired or serviced. So those aspects are being being addressed from the OEM perspective. To be honest, that's what we are trying to do. So in that direction, OEM has a understanding of where this cost accommodation to be done in a long term or the user based on his performance. with the vehicle. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. No, that's a great perspective that, somewhere it's also important for the consumer to understand what he's paying for, and if he sees value in that, and then
Exactly.
probably they'll be willing to pay that.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Vivek. So, Akshat, finally coming to you for the first round, I think, what do you think? So, we have talked about customers, we have talked about challenges, but of course, the ecosystem at the core has OEMs, you have solutions provider. And at some point of time, alternate monetization opportunities will also have to be thought through, because now essentially, rather than a one-time revenue, you're looking at potential revenue at different points of time. So where do you see the most immediate monetization opportunities for ecosystem players, be it OEMs as well as service providers?
First of all, it's really nice to be here over this evening. Hello, everyone. Um, so this part of question where monetization plays will be done in two parts. One, like you said, where OEM will capitalize on it. Second is post-sale, how other players can take benefit out of it. So first, I'll begin with the OEM side of it. So especially in two-wheelers and maybe eventually in future when three-wheeler becomes more tech heavy, it will come to that space. In two-wheelers, what had happened when the industry started, you had all the tech packs and all the features being there in the vehicle itself. And as the industry evolved, you added more features and more technology on the vehicle, and then you created different variation models. Yet the models which had more features in it were coming at a price, because of which the sale was not driving to the point what company would have wanted for, because there was an upfront cost to it. For a consumer, let's say I went out to buy a vehicle, for me paying 1.5, 1.7 lakh for a scooter would have been an enormous cost to put in place. Then companies figured out a way of decoupling the cost in a way where they would sell the vehicle at some base cost which they would decide which would not be hurting the company itself, and then providing features for maybe a year or two, so that with, let's say, a feature like having a Google map on your screen, or maybe have a feature like, let's say, regenerative braking on the vehicle. Once the user got used to, habituated of using those features as they rode, then post 1 year, or in some companies post 2 year, they would give out subscription model, which would ensure for the OEM to have a perpetual revenue coming each year, and for user not to entailing all the costs together in one go. So that was one side of it. The second side of it could be now of late, which has turned up as post-service care, where they would offer 8 years of service at some cost, which earlier entailed from a company to offer, let's say, a 5 year of compulsory service. And then for users, it was not something they were ready to pay, because post 5 year, what they are going to do about their vehicle. So OEM is offering that. Apart from that, OEM third party players are also offering protection to the battery, I mean guarantees on the battery, and so on and so forth. Similar to this, you'll see other things also turning up, like a few of the OEMs providing battery as a service. There are startups out there who will sell you the same vehicle which the OEM is selling at a slightly lower rate, but they would charge for battery usage. So different kind of models in the industry is turning up to reduce the upfront cost and lay over the cost over across years, so that it is not hard for the user also, as well as it becomes more economical and profitable for the industry altogether growing with this process.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Viveka. And rightly said, of course, the industry has the twin challenges to manage. One point, you want more pervasive connected two-wheelers. At the same point of time, you don't want to outprice the customer. So these kind of monetization opportunities could be a good middle path to follow. Now, Saroj, coming back to you again, now, as a solutions provider, we talked about India challenges, but how do you actually handle challenges such as patchy network coverage, data latency, as well as integration of the connected solutions with the existing mobility infrastructure?
Yeah, good question. Manjunath kind of touched upon it. Pankaj kind of touched upon it as well. So with connectivity, when more vehicles, more two-wheelers get connected, and not just the two-wheelers, probably as part of the IoT evolution, almost every electronic things are becoming connected. So that has a massive impact, along with the four-wheelers and the consumer phone, on the network infrastructure itself, because connectivity is becoming the foundation of the entire connected ecosystem, whether it is two-wheelers, four-wheelers, or any other connected things that we are talking about. So, so that basically means we have to find a way to have the existing network coverage to make sure that these are sort of making sure the two-wheelers that need to operate across cities, towns, remote regions, villages, there is continuous connectivity. In some cases, in two-wheelers, you probably don't need, you can get away without having continuous connectivity every second. But in certain other cases, like four-wheelers, you probably need to have continuous connectivity. But the overall need on the connectivity is massive. And how do we solve the connectivity need, the gaps in the connectivity? It could be solved on one side, on the infrastructure side, by expanding on the infrastructure. Whether the cellular connectivity itself can do it is something that is being looked at quite extensively. Operators are continuously increasing their infrastructure. We know across the cities at least, but it's not enough. Satellite is coming into picture, other sort of unlicensed spectrum, private 5G is coming into picture as well a little bit somewhere. Wi-Fi is there in a lot of other areas. And it looks like we're going forward in order to solve this patchy network coverage, the data latency, etc. We have to have multiple ways to solve it. We have to expand on the infrastructure, definitely, but we have to do something more intelligent on the vehicle side, on the two-wheeler side as well. So what we are providing from Tata Communication is what is known as multi-MC fallback or profile switching or network switching, which basically means when one network fails, the two-wheeler automatically seamlessly shifts to another one without any user intervention. So that kind of makes it a little bit easy for having continuous connectivity. There is another mechanism known as a local breakout, which basically means instead of having two packets to go from a rather large distance from one big metro to another big metro, you have smaller breakouts where packets can, and the routers can, and gateways can be very close to each other. That kind of reduces the latency a little bit better that way. Which is crucial for real-time services like remote immobilization, crash alerts, or start and stop, like a few examples Vivek was giving before. Then there is another way we also help fixing some of those weaknesses is by expanding age-based decision logic. What we mean by age-based, we basically kind of allow the two-wheeler very close to the two-wheeler so that they can execute some of the decision making on their own by building some intelligence into their connectivity modules that goes into the two-wheelers. So in short, so what we're looking at is not just a connection, but rather what we're looking at is more of an intelligent, adaptive orchestration that kind of goes from the two-wheeler and in combination with the infrastructure, and they kind of between them together are able to counter for the reliability and the difficult environmental conditions. That's what we're looking towards. It's a work in progress. I would not say this is all done and dusted, but this is what the future is going towards.
Right. Thank you so much, Sarojan. Again, rightly said, while there are certain fixed factors such as infrastructure, telecom connectivity, which will grow at their own pace, but important for solutions provider like yourself, you also are coming out with multiple solutions, trying to figure out some part of the problem on your own. So moving on, Mr. Atre, I think what I had asked Rahul as well, something similar on the line. So while there is, increasing connected technology, I just wanted to understand in your fleets, how are you using that to improve vehicle uptime, optimize fleet utilization, and more specifically, improving rider safety?
Right. So the key to all of this is getting the right information at the right time. So when you're operating a fleet in large cities, getting information from the bikes in terms of where they are, it becomes almost like a magic key that you can use to model your business. For example, one of the first things that we need to do when we are servicing customers is to ensure that the bikes are there at the right place where customers want the bikes, right? So demand prediction is a huge thing that based on the data through the connectivity that we get, we can use that data to model our demand and figure out where exactly customers need these bikes. So that's one way to ensure that the customers get the bikes when they want it, where they want it. Now that you have given the bikes to the customers, you want to ensure that the bikes are running fine. And if there is anything that goes wrong with the bike, given that it's a mechanical device, still largely a mechanical device, you want information about the bike's health coming to you very quickly so that you can, take either a preemptive action or even reach out to the customer saying that, there is an issue with the bike, bring it back and we'll resolve it or we'll give you another bike and so on and so forth, right? The second aspect of getting this information is predictive maintenance. So when you're running a large fleet, one of the biggest costs that go into is to manage the health of the vehicles, right? So maintaining the vehicles and all that. We do that all the time with our individual vehicles at home. Imagine doing it for a fleet of, 100,000 bikes. It becomes a huge challenge. So the key again is to get enough information ahead of time so that you can plan your maintenance and make sure that the maintenance is happening at the right time at the least cost, because every time you end up fixing the bike post an event, it's a huge cost rather than doing it ahead of time and maintaining its health. So from those two angles, I think data again becomes very, very critical for us in ensuring customer satisfaction. The third and the last part of this is from an energy angle. When customers use the bikes, there's a lot of range anxiety that comes in, saying that how many kilometers will this bike run? Using the data that we get from our bikes, we inform the customers ahead of time in terms of what's the range. So that brings down the anxiety to a large extent, saying that, okay, I have another 35 kilometers to go before I reach out for my, battery and so on and so forth. Now that we have given the information, the second piece that we need to do, and Yulu does it, is to ensure that we have a dense network of places where customers can go ahead and swap their batteries, right? So that information is also provided to the customer, saying that the next Yuma station, Yuma is our energy partner, and next Yuma station is about X kilometers away from where you are. That again goes towards ensuring that customer is supported in the times of need. The last part of this, again through information and data, is to ensure that the battery swapping experience is absolutely seamless and gets done in a matter of a jiffy. So today, Yulu has perfected this art. The batteries get swapped in literally less than a minute when they come to these stations. So overall, ensuring that the customer gets a completely seamless experience running these bikes, using these bikes, and getting rid of the anxiety that comes in with any bike that is battery operated is the core thing that we look at from data and connectivity.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Azri. So, Mr. Sharma, I think finally the question, that a key pertinent question is, with all these, connected features coming in, does this help accelerating the e-two-wheeler transition? So, of course, there's the cost side of it that's already been covered, I think, in the Indian market. But do you think with more and more features coming in, customers will be enticed to move towards electric two-wheelers?
Oh, for sure. I think, and we are seeing, like I said, in past 2-3 years. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
So, like I said, in past 2-3 years, I think more than maybe around 60% retail vehicle, and of course 100% fleet vehicles are connected vehicles. And from the end consumer, I'm talking about the retail customer, personal vehicles. I think they see it as a huge benefit. One, that they know that their software, all these connected vehicle have a software, right? It can be upgraded in the next 2 3 years whenever there is a new feature or application coming in the future, right? It can be done OT over the air. Second, there are few models which have safety feature. For example, if you're riding on a highway and if it gets little, unfortunately, if it gets toppled at particular angle, the some switch or some call will be activated, which might go to roadside assistance, or the number which you have given as a what do you say, a spouse number or somebody, right, to make a call, so that if something unforeseen happen, somebody can be communicated. I think, and this is a huge safety issue. If you tell these to customer, they are very happy and excited in terms of paying for these features, right? And I don't see any reason and that why people would not like to have connected vehicle. And on the, I think, earlier point where one of the panelists was mentioning about the connectivity issue from the network point of view. Honestly, our mobile penetration is much deeper than two-wheeler penetration, right? And we have seen if the vehicle is not able to get the signal, the vehicle source the signal from the rider's mobile and stay live for the oxygen point of view, right? And for two-wheeler, you don't need live feed of data, right? There are options when we say that every 5 minutes you will sync the data, or over the night you will sync the data. And they are not like cars where you actually controlling ADAS and all those things, right? So two-wheeler, I don't see connectivity as an issue. And nowadays, I think last 1 year, thanks to again the technology partner, that there are people who are giving a complete, what do you say, a platform, a connected platform which has cluster, which is inbuilt through your motor, through your BMS, through battery, and all other feature mobile apps. Everything is connected, right? So there are a hell lot of options for the customer to use, and I foresee next couple of years, 100% vehicle will have at least the hardware adoption, because honestly, it does not take much of the cost to add IoT device in the vehicle. Of course, as a OEM, and I think as a other stakeholder, I don't know, I should say on this platform or no, but software makes more money than hardware, right? Because when we say these are the features to be added, blah blah blah, 499, 999, all them. But I don't think just adding an IoT device on a vehicle costs that much in the BOM cost. So which means the hardware penetration will be almost 100%. Then it depends on brand to brand and features to the end consumer, how much they are willing to pay, and how much monetization can the ecosystem is willing to do, right? So that's where it is.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. So I think before we move on to Rahul, Rohit, I think could we have another round of polls, please, just to understand, what's the insight from other people who have joined onto the panel. So of course, the question here is which segment will benefit the most from connected two-wheeler technology? It's going to be personal computers, delivery and logistic fleet, ride-sharing mobility services, or rural mobility users. Do let us know. I think we'll see this poll towards the end of this session again. Thank you so much. So Rahul, I've already got your perspective in terms of what type of data that fleet owners like you look at. But just to try to flip that question, you talked about, you have a large fleet there, they have their own charging requirement. Now, in a country like ours, where the charging infra, at least for the near future, is going to be lacking behind the EV adoption, how do you think we can use this data for optimizing charging networks? Along with that, of course, battery performance is a key concern, and battery degradation is a key concern for major consumers in India, be it individual customers or B2B fleets. So how do you think those two problems can be solved using the data that we are getting from the vehicles? Rahul?
I think Rahul, it looks like he's disconnected. So maybe
Okay.
Nishant, we can move on to the next speaker.
Yes, sure.
I'll just in the meantime share the results of the poll.
Got it. No. So I think,
So
yeah,
yeah,
please, Rohit.
please go ahead, Nishant. Please go ahead.
No. So I think delivery and logistic fleet, as well as ride-sharing mobility services, coming out as the clear winners. But like we have heard from the panelists, including the OEMs as well, that personal commuters, of course, will also start benefiting as we move forward, especially from a safety perspective. So Vivek, coming to you again, because you sell a lot to individual customers. So and probably the challenge hasn't started, but it will happen as the consumers become more aware. So how do you manage the concerns around data privacy, cyber security, as well as ownership? Coming from the individual customers as well as some of your B2B buyers as well.
See, when we talk about the B2C customers, the individual customers, everyone has their own concern with respect to the data what they've been tracked on, right? So that to be honest, everywhere we have the same issue right now. We have a lot of constraints to collect any kind of data of any personal data of the user. As simple as when we talk about any smartphone brand, as on today, if you want to access any location on the application, a customer has a feature to enable and disable when the location has to be shared, right? Similarly, all the vehicle data also, there are a lot of restrictions to it to get any kind of data out of a vehicle. But on the same lines, it is very much highly needed to an OEM or to a service person to know what the vehicle is doing. So to manage it, there should be some regulatory pass-ons or any mandatories that has to be passed by the government, which would be giving a strict guidelines what amount of data and what kind of data that would be that should be visible to the OEMs or to the bigger people, for at least for the B2C clients, wherein we can create some use case and develop an system which will present an valuable solution for the customer, such that the customer will be knowing what the data has been tracked, maybe what the vehicle is doing, how the engine has been running, or what are the number of trips he has done, maybe some sort of information. So as of now, there is no standard data formats or standard regulations which says that what kind of data could be accessible. So this is still at the end of government to say what to be extracted and what not to be extracted, and the restrictions are on a higher side, to be honest, at this point of time.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Vivek. And Akshat, connected to that, of course, there will be data privacy concerns, there will be other concerns as well. And then there are different stakeholders, so consumers, OEMs, government that have to work together. So what type of partnerships do you think are necessary for the ecosystem to develop between such stakeholders such as government, startups, as well as established players?
So, from the connected mobility point of view, I'll speak it in two parts. One from the connected mobility point of view, where we will talk about the partnership that is needed between government, OEMs, and different stakeholders, and the other would be towards the infrastructure that is coming up. So, from the point of view, like it was being mentioned before by Vivek, um, one thing which is very essential towards private and the government partnership should be towards who is going to maintain what data is coming up. Because at the end of the day, the data is being generated, and at this given point of time, that data is coming to an OEM and they have to filter it out in a certain way. Um, so in this particular scenario, we should have maybe a public infrastructure setup where they can have some guiding policy on what and who is going to channel this data through. The second part would be around the public infrastructure which needs to be there, which at the present is not to the capacity where I'm confident enough taking my, let's say, electric vehicle from one city to another, because I do not have maybe a charging, maybe I have a range limitation of 200 kilometers or 400. So I cannot go beyond that. So in this point of time, I mean, from a government point of view, I only see maybe incentives being given by the government, because I feel that less the government is involved, the better. But facilitating the private players to develop the infrastructure which is needed at large, for, let's say, for in this example, let's say that might be for the EV charger setup throughout. Similarly, one other thing which was being discussed, where it was talked about that connectivity is well enough, right? Over there also, I think you need a little boost for the private partnership, especially towards when you go in the highway and when you go towards the remote area. Over there, again, you need some government push, because at the end of the day, for private player, let's say someone is going to Dehradun from Delhi, for them in certain block points, it's not financially viable to set up a tower that is managing a certain amount of data. So over there also you would need some government push, policy changes and incentive, and maybe startups can pick that up, especially from the EV industry that is coming up. There are multiple things which a startup can do, which at present no big OEM is doing, be it setting up of charging infra, and be it setting up of, let's say, a service network. Like in cars, you have the ICE vehicles, you have some mechanic at certain distance who can look at your scooters or your motorcycle or your car if something goes wrong. In EV, you don't have that kind of infra. That results in people, when something goes wrong, calling for a toll service. That adds to a cost, which is a very, uh, for a consumer, it is a very detrimental thing that if this does not work out, I have to bring it back to maybe some showroom which is at some kilometer. So you can also have a, in the highway or in the city itself, you can have a, apart from charging, you can have a infra setup around maintenance of your EV vehicle. At this point of time, people really are unaware of what all to look at EV, which also results in some people doing some funny thing on their vehicle, and at times the vehicle catching fire, which you'll see on news. So on these things also, I think there should be a government push. Government has done few things around providing incentives for the OEMs to develop the EV vehicles, but we don't have a second level push for the next level of infrastructure coming in place that would ensure that EV ecosystem survives. I mean, it's surviving, that grows aggressively. It's growing, but the growth can be more aggressive.
Okay, sure, sure. Thank you so much, Akshata. I think thank you everyone for providing very deep insights into this topic. We've had a whole range of perspective from solutions providers, OEMs, as well as fleet operators. I think we have a set of questions with us, but I think, and Rohit, maybe you can guide. I would want Saroj to at least help us with, wrapping up the session and understanding what's the way forward, what are the enablers, and I think even for the audience that will be very interesting. We'll definitely try to see if we can cover some questions, but I think we are just running out of time at this point.
That is
So,
true.
yeah, sure. Can we take a few questions if the panel is okay? Just one or two.
Sure.
Sure,
Let's
sure.
take one
Sure.
question.
Yeah.
Okay, so one question comes from Narayana Kaluru. He says, looking at the future, I would like to understand how an OEM should develop their associates to implement, such connected technologies. And he's asking it in terms of people development, and also which courses should an individual learn to be future ready to kind of embrace these technologies. Would anybody like to take that? One of you?
I can pitch in, but I'm not the OEM though.
No, I can.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sure, sure.
No, I think so there are two set of people which needs to be trained. Let's understand. One, of course, the OEM team, which is the technical team, which we call R&D team, right? When they're designing the vehicle, what kind of technology they want, which will help in connecting this vehicle with customer, of course, his phone and the other ecosystem. Second, from the customer point of view, right? That what education does he need, right? And what is meant by connected vehicle? So I think as a consumer, they don't need to know that how motor, controller, BMS, all these are working physically, right? As a customer, they want to know how is there any um, risk in next maybe 10 kilometers, 50 kilometers, 3 days, 30 days. How is my vehicle performing? Is there something really bad which will impact my vehicle will go off road, or it might impact my resale value after 2 3 years? Or is there any particular feature which gets deactivated because I have not done ABC right, which means I have not activated on mobile? So, and this is OEM job to train dealers, OEM jobs to give a lot of information on their website. It is also OEM job when they are delivering the vehicle, they should give a set of PDF document to customer, and there should be enough material to be available on the YouTube, which can be accessed by all the customers. And of course, it needs the help of the technological service provider, because even before OEM, they think first that this is the technology available which can sit on the vehicle, which will give benefit to OEM, benefit to customer. Why don't you try, right? So all these ecosystem have to be together and then give this whole beneficial plate to the customer, right? I would say that.
I mean, just adding to what Pankaj said, I think in the current scenario, a lot of information is not there for the consumers. And like he said, you can provide YouTube tutorials and give them a guidebook to understand their vehicle, because they understand a petrol vehicle, let's say, but they don't understand electric that well. But this is adding to that. I feel the way things are changing, there should come a time where their own app of the let's say someone has a Ather or someone has a Tata or a Ola, their app of the vehicle should have the AI should be good enough to inform them what's going wrong and what is the next step that they should take. For example, let's say they come back immediately from a ride and they try to put the vehicle on charge. The AI should prompt them and tell them that the battery is at a certain temperature, take 5 minute break or 10 minute break or whatever, and then the charging would be more optimization, so increasing their battery life. So those kind of things, I mean, that comes on side of OEM, that they have to develop intelligence to a level that it becomes as simple as using a phone. Your EV should be like that for you, and that is the ultimate goal of OEMs, to reach where using a vehicle is no brainer for a consumer.
Yeah, agree with Pankaj and Akshat. Is the digital knowledge know-how on how to use all those features that are coming in. That is probably more important. And a little bit AI can help by prompting, like Akshat said, if some of the prompts could come in automatically from a customer interaction point of view, from a customer knowledge point of view, it makes it a lot more easier. But as a user of the two-wheelers vehicle, just knowing how many such features are there, that is the most important bit. Like for example, our smartphone. A lot of the population, not just in India, across the globe, they probably consume only less than 10% of the feature what each available on the smartphone. And similar could happen in the two-wheeler side as well, because it's going a little bit more software centric, a lot of digital features being enabled, but not necessarily people know how to use it or when to use it. So those sort of education and training would be a lot more helpful, and some of them have to be self-help as well, and whether we like it or not.
Okay. So should we jump into the next question? So somebody has asked anonymously how predictive maintenance is done on bikes. So what parameters you take as an input and how do you process it for further execution? Would one of you like to take that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead, Rohit. So there
Sure.
are a lot of parameters that we take into consideration, but let me just give a couple of examples given the sensitivity of time that we have here. So
Hmm.
one parameter that we look at, which even in the non-EV world we look at, is the distance run by the bike, right? So the odometer reading provides us good information in terms of how much the vehicle has ridden, in terms of kilometers, what could be a potential wear and tear of the physical parts, and so on and so forth. So that's something that we have seen in the past also. Even in the EV world, we continue with that. What is new in the EV world is we also get information, for example, on the discharge rate of the battery, right? So your battery is supposed to run for 60 kilometers, and we get information live that the discharge rate is much faster than what we had anticipated or planned for, right? And that gives us indications that there could be something wrong in the bike or in the battery as well. And we basically bring back, when the bike comes back, the battery goes in for inspection. We figure out if there's something wrong, we need to fix it, right? So those are, two examples that come to my mind. Of course, the electronic part of it continuously gives us signals. So through that dashboard, we get regular information whether the electronics within the bike are functioning properly or not, right? So any fault develops, right? We get to know right away that there is a fault that has come into the bike, which either could be a simple fault, will just go away in the next 5 minutes, or it is something that needs the bike to be brought back to the mechanic, so to be fixed, right? So there are multiple pieces of information that we get that we can use to plan for the other bikes, saying that we can bring in predictive maintenance based on the data we collect from the fleet.
Yeah, that's correct. Vivek?
Just to add two more points, I think on this, sorry, just to add two more points what Manjunath was saying. I think one is there are few softwares which are only updated when the vehicle is connected at the workshop, authorized workshop, right? And those softwares are probably planned by OEM whenever there is an upgrade happening on the main architecture of the vehicle. So that gives is kind of a mandatory. It gives a notification through mobile app to the consumer, and they should take the vehicle to the workshop. Second, I think there are very few. If you look at the cluster, there are many features which probably have got deactivated by mistake by the customer by just touching something, right? So those kind of notification comes in mobile app to remind the customer to activate this from safety point of view, from location on point of view, from for example, charging stopping at 90%, don't charge more than 100%, or if it is charge, you please plug it or unplug it, right? So all those things, which through notification it goes, right? So, and this is all because of the technology it is possible. Yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Well, and on the predictive maintenance, just to whoever asked it, it is broadly, I mean, in my view, it's broadly classified into two categories. One is, which is very similar to those ICE vehicles where you just track the kilometer that has run, and on basis of that, there's certain assumption that the brake pad will wear off, the tire will wear off, and so much, and you give those maintenance. But these new EV vehicles, especially the ones who are higher end EV vehicles, they also have certain sensors through which they track how much distance they have traveled and how much rolling of the wheel has happened, how many times the brake pad was pressed. So in those kind of vehicles, they give very precise check. I mean, they don't say that it has, I mean, the part has, you need to change it. They just tell you to go and get it checked because in their calculation, each company will set up that so many braking will result in if vehicle is at certain speed, this would be the wear and tear that would happen, and so on and so forth. So these modern age EV vehicles can make predictive maintenance granular to a very specific part checkup also, and of course predicting the general health checkup of the vehicle whenever it is needed.
Okay, great. So one final question. Vivek, this one I'll jump straight to you because this has again come anonymously and you had answered it in the chat. So maybe if you can just elaborate on that a bit. With multiple OEMs and startups building their own platforms, what about standardization and connected mobility solutions to ensure interoperability? So, Vivek, would you like to
Yes,
share your thoughts?
yes, Rohit. I would like to answer this question. So, making a standardization causes a single platform for all the data, right? All across the globe. So the problem is whenever there is a theft of data or any kind of cyber attack, where we will be losing a lot of data, which has a concern. So you might have heard of a recent case where the vehicle data was being taken out from an OEM. I don't want to specify the OEM name. The customers had a case on the company saying that the data has been taken out illegally. So making a standardized format will be very difficult until and unless there is a government mandate, which is similar to
Okay.
AS 140 for the logistics vehicle. If if you are aware of, there is a mandate which has been fallen across in more than 22 states in India, where you should mandatorily have a AS 140 device, which gives the information of the vehicle to the government. That's a standardization where the government is taking the data and taking a responsibility for the data. Here, for now, we do not have any kind of such standardization for now. Because of that, it's very hard for now to have a common platform all across the OEMs. So it might come in the future, maybe down the lane for the 5 years, but not immediately.
Okay. Okay. So I mean, Nishant, if you would like to just sum up the discussion, then I can just give a short bye to everybody.
Yeah, sure. So once again, thank you everyone. From an ecosystem perspective, we do understand that as we go forward, connected two-wheeler is going to be the future. It's going to be pervasive. And of course, there are multiple benefits to it in terms of how you manage fleet for individual customers about safety, and it could be one of the drivers for accelerating change to electric two-wheelers. We also understood perspective in terms of given the Indian scenario, given our operating conditions, how both solution providers as well as OEMs and fleet operators are trying to find a way around while the infrastructure keeps on developing. So again, all in all, I think just in the interest of time, I'd like to summarize that, of course, as we see the next 5 years, connected vehicles are going to become more pervasive, but it is imperative for the OEM, for the solution provider, to ensure that the customer has a seamless experience as possible. He knows what tools are at his disposal, what features are at his disposal, and I think that is what will further accelerate the penetration of e-two-wheelers in the market.
So thanks everybody for the insightful session. Well, that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you all for joining us today. And I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. I would first like to thank a wonderful audience for taking out the time and their attention and answering the polls and all of that and the questions you shared. Please do take a few minutes to answer share your feedback in the form that opens up when you exit the session. Next, a big thank you to our speaker group. Thanks for taking out the time from your busy schedule for this. We truly appreciate your support. And lastly, a special thanks to our partner, Tata Communications, for supporting this session and helping us organize such knowledgeable sessions. And before we sign off, I'm delighted to share that once again, we'll be doing the 7th edition of TWF in March 2026 in Delhi, bringing over 100 speakers and 500 delegates from two-wheeler, three-wheeler, and EV industry. Alongside the forum, we'll also be bringing back our awards, which will have over 20 categories and will celebrate excellence in mobility. Thank you once again, everybody, for joining us, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you in Delhi in March 2026 at the event, and having the speakers on board as well for another round 2. So until then, a goodbye from all of us at Team WF. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.